Hey everyone, it's Crew Brendan. Thank you for joining me today for part 2 of our Srisuk Muay Thai basic punch count. Today we're going to be covering punches 5 through 8, so let's get started. First up today is our punch 5, our lead uppercut. For this punch, our lead arm is going to be vertical. Our knuckles are going to be facing towards our opponent. Our hip is going to slightly turn over. Our punch is going to be driving through our lead hip, chin down, and rear hand up, protecting our face. Now let's take a look at the lead uppercut in slow motion. As Pierce throws his lead uppercut, he's going to bend his knees, driving through the hips, turning his lead hip over slightly. His knuckles are going to be facing his opponent, with his hand driving up towards his opponent's chin. Meanwhile, his rear hand is going to be up, protecting the other side of his face. After the punch, he's going to retract his hand and return back to his original stance. As we take a look one more time, Pierce bends the knees, drives through the hips, knuckles facing the opponent, proper form, returning right back to his original stance. Now for our punch 6, our rear uppercut. Similar to our lead, our rear arm is vertical, our knuckles are facing towards our opponent, our hips turn slightly over, our punch driving through our rear hip, our chin is going to be down with our lead hand up, protecting our face. Now let's take a look at the rear uppercut in slow motion. As Pierce throws the rear uppercut, he's going to bend his knees, driving up through his rear foot, turning his rear hip over slightly. His rear arm is going to be vertical, with his knuckles facing his opponent, driving the punch up towards his opponent's chin. Meanwhile, his lead arm is going to be up, protecting the other side of his face. After the punch, he's going to retract his hand, returning back to his original stance with hands rested by his face. And one more time, we see Pierce load, drive the punch up through that rear foot, rear hip turning over, knuckles facing the opponent, hand retract, returning right back to his original stance. Now for punch 7, our lead body shot. For this punch, our lead arm is going to be at about a 45-degree angle. Our knuckles are going to be facing towards the opponent's body. We're going to load the punch by squatting down on the lead leg, pivoting on the lead foot, rotating the hips over. We're going to drive the punch through the floating ribs, aiming to go out the back shoulder blade. Our other hand is going to be up, protecting the other side of our face. Now let's take a look at the lead body shot in slow motion. Pierce is going to load by squatting down on that lead leg, driving that punch up and in. He's going to pivot on his lead foot, turning his hips over for power. The punch is going to be directed at the liver or spleen if you're southpaw, driving the punch up through those ribs, out the back shoulder blade. Meanwhile, his chin is going to be tucked, and other arm is going to be up, protecting the other side of his face. After the punch, he's going to retract it and return back to his original stance. And one more time, Pierce loads, dropping on that lead foot, pivoting, driving the hip, driving that punch into the ribs, and returning right back to his original stance. Now for punch 8, our rear body shot. For this punch, similar to our punch 7, our rear arm is going to be at about a 45-degree angle. Our knuckles are going to be facing towards the opponent's body. We're going to squat down this time towards the rear leg. We're going to pivot on the rear foot, rotating the hips over for power, and we're going to drive the punch through the floating ribs. Our other hand is going to be up, protecting the other side of our face. Let's take a look at the rear body shot in slow motion. Pierce is going to squat down towards that rear leg, driving up, landing the punch square on the ribs. He's going to pivot on his rear foot, turning the hips over for power. The knuckles are going to be in, punch landing again on those bottom two ribs, driving up through the opposite shoulder blade. Meanwhile, his lead arm is going to be up, protecting the other side of his face. Immediately after the punch, he's going to retract his hand, return back to his original stance with hands resting by his face. And one more time, we see Pierce squat down towards that rear foot, driving up, turning the hips, punch landing right on those ribs, bringing that hand right back to his face, returning to his original stance. Thank you all for watching part 2 of our Srisuk Muay Thai 8 basic punch video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Have an awesome day.